Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten and my fan background noise here. And today, we have the brand new Dockyard ship, the Tier 9 Japanese Battlecruiser, the Daisen, in port to review for you guys today. As always, massive shout out to the channel's Patreons. These Patreons make all ship reviews on this channel possible, especially ones like this. I am not a CC nor supported by Wargaming in any way, shape, or form, so I do not get early access to these ships to review. So again, massive thank you to those guys whose names should have appeared or should be appearing up on screen. If you want to help out the channel, Patreon is the best place to do so, besides of course just watching the videos and streams. So the Daisen, could this be a redemption arc over the previous Tier 9 Japanese battleship, the Iwami? The Iwami was promised to be a brawling battleship, but had secondaries that couldn't get out past 10.5 kilometers, but did have 20-kilometer torpedoes instead. The Daisen is supposed to be more of a artillery-focused battleship, which might be true. I did take a look at this thing's stats over on the PT server. She does have quite the quick reload time on her 8 16-inch guns. Man, just looking at this ship model, actually, as always, absolutely beautiful ship model here, looking at her in port. Lots of nice detail, especially with this camouflage we have on her launch camouflage. But yeah, it's supposed to be more of an artillery boat. We'll find out today. So let's go ahead, take a look at the Daisen, go over her quirks and features, and see how she does. So I don't have a commander nor module build on this ship. I literally just got it out of the dockyard. So on top of this ship, you get all of these rewards as well. Hopefully I managed to grab a screenshot there. Apparently there's a thing where if you take a screenshot with GeForce, the game crashes right now. But I do believe I was recording for that and screenshot quite a bit of stuff in this dockyard. If you want to absolutely buy your way through the dockyard, the cost per stage is 1,500 dubs. You can grind up to 29 or 30 stages, and then you have to buy for, I believe, at 1,500 dubs a stage. Let's see, does it say here exactly how many before I tell you wrong? I believe it's 4. It's 4 or 5 at 1,500 dubs a stage, and you get all those rewards. You can get 3 stages through the Premium Battle Pass, so you can save a little bit that way. If you do plan on grinding through it, I would highly encourage you guys to get or if you do plan to buy your way through it, I guess I should say, you should buy the starter packs. You can get 11 stages at 10,000 dubs, and then 5 stages at 5,500 dubs. So save a little there if you're planning on buying your way through it. And if you do buy your way through it, you can go back and then regrind the stages for 250 still per stage. Alright. So that's the event. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Daisen herself here. So again, no commander nor module builds. So economically, you do get the Tier 9 Premium Ship Booster. This is a full-on premium ship, not a resource ship or anything like that. So you get this bonus to your earnings, 10% to credits, and 100% to the various XP types, on top of the baked-in Tier 9 Premium Ship bonus. So quite a profitable credit grinder here. Her camo, you do get to the ceremonial camo. I still misclicked the wrong tab, which looks like this, which gives you all the nice banners and such, but I myself prefer the more realistic camo. This is her primary coloring with the green, which looks pretty nice, but as with most of my Japanese battleships, I do like the alternative camo instead. And that looks, it's better than some of the more recent premium camos that we've gotten, because I guess since camos don't do anything, they've slashed the art department's budget quite a bit. Alright, let's go ahead and look at her armor. So she has a 32mm bow, big bow as well. Upper armor's 32, side armor's 305mm. Bulges are 32. You do get a bit of a wraparound stern here, 76mm, and that's mostly covering the steering gears and such. But the stern's 32 as well. 32mm stern deck, 32 millimeter mid deck. Ah, so that's all gonna get pinned by HE. It is a battle cruiser, so yeah, that is yeah. As frustrating as that is to be expected. All right, so take a look at her Citadel. Her Citadel is it's kind of a turtleback, thin turtleback at 305 millimeters. Move that 76 millimeter angled Citadel side. 76, yep, all the way around. It's above the waterline, but you do have that turtleback there. But again, it's not that much armor. If you move the torpedo bulges, there she be. Ooh, that's only 19 millimeters thick. So, oh, that kind of hangs out. I bet you there's going to be some weird citadels because of that. See, is that covered by the... Okay, that is covered by the turtleback, but... Man, I betcha, like, there's going to be some weird geometry going on, and you're going to get vibe checked for a Citadel hit randomly. Okay, but it is a battle cruiser. That is to be expected that her armor isn't fantastic. Her guns. Her 8 410mm 16-inch guns have a base reload time of 27 seconds. It's pretty nice. You can get it down even further with the reload module. But again, it is only 8 guns at Tier 9. Her maximum range is 20.6 kilometers. Her dispersion of 232 meters at 20.6 kilometers. Her HE does a maximum damage of 6,500, has a 30% fire chance per shell with 68 millimeters of armed pin, and those come out the tubes at 869 meters a second. Her AP has a maximum damage of 12,900, and those come out the tubes at 870 meters a second, 1 meter a second faster than her HE. Funny. Alright, her secondary guns, you have 20 of these 127mm guns. They reload in 5 seconds, have a 7-kilometer range. Maximum damage between 100, 21mm of pin, so they're not that useful. And those come with the tubes at 725 meters a second with an 8% fire chance. You get 16 of these 140mm guns, which pin 23mm of armor, so they're not that useful. 8-second reload time, 7-kilometer range, 2400 maximum damage on their HE shells, 10% fire chance, and a 50 meters a second initial velocity. So, yeah, definitely some World War I era secondaries. I think this ship was, designed in the 20s according to Ouija. Nope, 1944. Okay, that's interesting. I think I still had a bunch of the 100mm Harugumo guns in here. That would have been different and given them actual range. Alright, her torpedoes, 4x4 610s. They have a range of 10 kilometers, so not the 20 kilometers of the Iwami. And that's my Discord, not yours. They reload in 150 seconds, do a maximum damage of 20,967, which is quite good, and have a top speed of 67 knots. But they are detectable from 1.7 kilometers away. I predict in like a lot of drive-by scenarios, of course, the detection isn't going to matter. You'd probably be surprised how many times, too, just throwing torpedoes down an alleyway might catch somebody. They're mounted amidships as well. Well, a mid kind of... This is a long boat. Jeez, I've never even realized that. She long, boys. She's a long boy. So, not exactly midships, but not astern. So, mid-astern-ish. Athwartships, maybe? If that's what that means. She does get the ASW planes, 2 of them. A of 77, and it's Japanese, so that means it's terrible, but I guess if you are curious. You get 20 of the single-mounted 25mm guns. You get, that's still my Discord, okay. You get 24 of the triple-mounted 25mm guns, 16 of the dual-mounted 40mm guns, and then the 127, the dual 127s do count as AA. Top speed of 35 knots before you even touch it with a flag or anything. Massive turning radius of 1100 meters and a 16-second rudder shift time. It's time to mute that conversation. There we go. And then her concealment base is 16.5. And yeah, okay, so let's see what happens when I slap a... Oh, let's check the consumables first. So she has a spotter, which I'm going to keep on there. It's active for 240 seconds. Has a cooldown time of 90 seconds. You get 3 charges of that base. 3 charges of repair party base as well. That regens 346 HP per second and is active for 28 seconds. Reloads in 80 seconds. Damage con of 10 seconds and 80 seconds for it to regen. Yeah, pretty standard Japanese damage con there. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and slap a commander and module build on this thing, and I'll meet you guys right back here. Alrighty. For the module build, I went with a standard battleship build with the reload module in the last slot. It's I believe the same one that I run. Yes, the same one that I run on my Musashi, if you are wondering. So we went with main armaments mod 1 to give the main battery guns a better chance of not becoming incapacitated, giving them a better survivability rate by 50% and a better repair time by 20%. Same with the torpedo tubes as well. Went with damage con mod 1 because fires suck, and this reduces our risk of catching fire by 5% and by flooding of 3%. We then went with aiming systems mod 1 to give ourselves better dispersion. With the Daisen, I'm not sure if it's going to get the Japanese battleship dispersion or it might get battlecruiser dispersion, which should make this a lot more interesting. So this reduces the maximum dispersion by 7% and gives the torpedo tubes a 20% boost to their traverse speed. We then went with damage con mod 2 because fires still suck. This reduces our fire extinguishing and flooding recovery time by 15%. Then slapped concealment system mod 1 in there to give us a 10% boost to our concealment. We then went ahead and slapped main battery mod 3 to give ourselves a 12% boost to our reload time. For the commander build, again playing it safe, going with the usual battleship build here. I went with preventive maintenance to give ourselves a much needed boost to the reduction of the chance of our main battery guns becoming incapacitated along with our torpedo tubes. This is Yamamoto, so I do get a 45% boost to that. I then went with Grease the Gears, which this is Yamamoto, so he has an enhancement on this skill, which gives us a 25% boost to the rotation time of the turrets. I then went for Adrenaline Rush, which gives us a boost to our reload time by 0.2% for every 1% of HP lost. Again, this is a battleship with a quick reload time, so a battlecruiser with a quick reload time. With the battlecruiser armor scheme, I do believe we'll probably be getting some mighty fast reload times on the main battery guns. The first 3-point skill, I would definitely take, 4-point skill, I would definitely take Emergency Repair Expert, because we are down 1 charge of a healed base anyway, so this gives us 4, so we're starting at where most other battleships and battlecruisers begin at. Well, most battleships, I should say. And then I would come back down and take Concealment Expert, which would give the ship another 10% boost to its concealment. Then I would come back down again and get Fire Prevention to give ourselves a 10% boost to the chance of us catching on fire, and a reduction of 1 to the maximum number of fires on the ship. Then finally I would come back and take Basic Survivability, which gives us a 15% boost to our module restoration, fire extinguishing, and flooding recovery times. So now on the ship, for the guns, by the way, this has 69,000 HP. I think I might have skipped right over that at the beginning. 69,000 HP, 53% torpedo damage reduction. So we are on the lower side of Tier 9 battleships HP. Forgot to mention that earlier. Alright, so now these main battery guns reloaded 23.8 seconds. That's pretty fast, which should make up for them being 16-inch guns and only having 8 of them if the dispersion is nice. Our dispersion is down to 216 meters at 20.6 kilometers right now. If it's still the Japanese-style dispersion, I don't see this working too well. The reload might make up for it, but we will find out. Our maneuverability is now at 37 knots with the speed flag equipped. And our consumables is now down to 13.4 kilometers. Pretty stealthy. Now, something you could probably do is take Brisk, where when you're undetected, you get a 10% boost to your speed. So you'd be going 40 knots when you're undetected. You could do that, and you could take Furious as well, which gives you a boost to the reload time when you're on fire, if you want to do kind of a Mad Lad build, maybe. But for the purposes of this review, we're going to play it safe with a normal battleship build. So I'm going to go ahead, pop into some rounds of the Daisen. I'll meet you guys there for my voiceover review of the ship. Alright guys, voiceover Mountbatten here. So, the Daisen. The Daisen is unfortunately not as good as I thought she was going to be. My current main gripe with the ship is that it still seems to use the Japanese battleship dispersion, which means that you have 8 16-inch guns that are quite frustrating to use. Now, this frustration is thankfully cut back on the fact that she has an incredibly fast reload time, which she really should, only having 8 16-inch guns at Tier 9. So that does help compensate for it. But what you'll find is that you're of course getting your damage in by volume of hits rather than getting good big hits like one normally does in battleships. It truly does play like a hybrid between a battleship and a cruiser, so that's not necessarily a bad thing. The issue comes into play when you consider the fact that you are playing a Tier 9 premium ship in Tier 9 matchmaking today, which means you have to deal with things like super ships, which are quite frustrating because they can absolutely vibe check you to Kingdom Come, but you can't really do too much in return with your 8 16-inch guns. Now, 8 16-inch guns reloading in 23 second space isn't a terrible thing, but the other thing is that this thing's turret angles are atrocious, especially from the front. They're a little bit better from the rear, but from the front, you pretty much have to give them flat broadside. And with how thin your armor is, you're essentially giving them flat broadside, because most large caliber guns that you can see playing at Tier 9 can and will bite into your armor when you're angled enough to get your guns in from the bow on. Now, from stern in, that's a little bit different. The angles are a bit better, but man, the forward angles are terrible on this thing. So this means that if you don't want to get vibe checked by other battleships at your tier, you're stuck in a situation where you only have 4 of your 8 guns. And 4 16-inch guns, even reloading in 23 seconds, is kinda miserable. Now, in situations when you can unmask your rear turrets and get them into the fight, it's much more tolerable. And that's kind of where it's stuck for me. It worked, it did well, but it just wasn't... It always felt like I was missing a little bit of something. And I understand that, of course, they can't just make it broke and give it great dispersion or anything like that, but another gripe I have is the additional repair party that's missing. Because, of course, it is a Battlecruiser, understandable. It already has low HP for its tier. It does have 32mm plating at its tier, so there is that. It's not like the British or the French, or I'm sorry, the French or the, well, I guess you could say the French too, the French or the German Battlecruisers where they don't have 32mm plating when you get to the higher tier ones. So it's kind of understandable that they did remove another charge of that repair party, but it also really hurts considering that the ship is coded in 32 and everyone and their mom can pin you with their HE, so you're quite easily farmed out by cruisers, and that's what's going on in the background match you're watching right now. It's a pretty good display of what happens when a bunch of cruisers look at you at the same time. In the background footage, my team didn't really want to push up that much, so I was stuck kind of running in the back, which the Daisen's pretty good at doing, very much like the Congo is good at doing at tier 10. But when a bunch of cruisers only have me to shoot at, you can see how quickly you melt in this. It can't really tank. Again, it's a battle cruiser, so it's not really marks against it. You just can't really tank in it. And when the cruisers do look at you, you melt quite quickly because of that lack of, well, more than 32mm being everywhere on the ship. So there is that. But where it does excel at is its speed. 37 knots base is nothing to laugh at. This ship is quick, it feels quite quick, and it feels like if I ever could, it would be great at running down a flank, catching some broadside ships, and dealing with them quite well. On paper, it should be that simple, but of course in game it's not with the way that higher tier matches go. So what I did find myself doing is running around at mid-range a bunch because of tier 9 games. And most of the ships I was having to fire at were bow in or angled in. I couldn't really get to their sides because teams didn't really want to push up. So I was stuck shooting at bow on and angled ships for most of the duration of this review, which is quite frustrating given the Japanese dispersion. Now, yes, with the 23-second reload time, it helped make up for it, but I mean, we're still landing, you know, a shell or two here, a shell or two there for most of my damage. Now, thankfully, in the later game in this match you're watching in the background, I finally was able to, you know, get some nice juicy shots in, thankfully. But even then, with only 8 16-inch guns, it's not, like what most battleship players are expecting at Tier 9. Even the Battlecruisers at this tier that we do have more guns than the Daisen. We have the Duncan with 9 16-inch guns. We've got I would say the Prince Rupert, but she has a similar amount, but she also has, of course, a Spanish galleon's worth of secondaries at this tier as well. So it just feels a little underwhelming in the firepower department. Now, again, it's a Battlecruiser. It does lean heavily into the cruiser side, it seems, but yeah. Now, the torpedoes, the 10-kilometer torpedoes are pretty good. I didn't get any hits with them, but I mean, hey, for tossing down a channel that you think a ship might be sneaking up, or just tossing down behind an island or something to discourage someone from pushing, they work. And of course, if you ever do get in a drive-by situation, you have those up your sleeve, and they are 20k alpha torpedoes, so they are quite useful in my opinion. They've come in use in other ships in the same situation, as I'm sure most of you that have played battleships have encountered. When you can use them, they're great. Other than that, throw them down the channels to prevent those ships from pushing, hoping that DD randomly eats them, which that does happen from time to time, and that's pretty hilarious. AA, terrible. 77 rating on the AA, on Japanese AA. It's there. It's a nice fireworks show. Doesn't really do much else. So, overall, is this ship worth the grind? In my opinion, yeah, it's a pretty good one. I think it's one of the better Dockyard ships. I am, again, a little underwhelmed by the firepower, but with the reload time, it does just make up for it, in my opinion, to be suitable. Now, you will be running to super ship games because it is Tier 9 matchmaking, and that does suck, but you are in a Tier 9 premium ship. It's pretty good at farming, especially if you have a couple of boosters lying around, and with the stealth and maneuverability and speed of the ship, you can give those super battleships a run for their money with trying to hit you. This is a ship you definitely don't, if you can help it, want to sit there and try to face tank half of the enemy team. You typically want to stay moving as much as you can. Maybe if you're like a one-on-one situation, like it was myself versus a Mosfa there for a while, so I did stop, go stern into him, but I was steeply angled enough when I was stern in to bounce AP coming in at me. And you can do that when you're stern in, but if you can help it, good tip is just to stay on the move. Play it like a battlecruiser, not a battlecruiser. Play it like a heavy cruiser. Keep on the move. Stay at mid range. Throw AP at things. The HE isn't also terrible as well because of the reload time and that 30% fire chance. And that typically you'll be landing enough shells to be starting fires fairly decently well. So there is that too. In terms of a number, I would give this a 7 out of 10. If super ships weren't a thing, an 8 out of 10. In my opinion, it's fast, it's stealthy. If you can run down a flank, you can. It's got torpedoes. The AP, when it does bite, is of course Japanese AP, so it does pack a punch, even though again you do only have 8 guns, so not as much as a punch as you would typically expect at this tier. But it's a punch you're throwing out every 23 seconds versus 30 seconds for other battleships at this tier. The cons being, it's got, of course, battlecruiser armor. Its citadel's lightly armored. You only have 8 guns. The forward gun angles are atrocious beyond all belief, and it does still have the Japanese battleship dispersion. It's incredibly frustrating, but again, the reload just makes up for it. But in those situations when you're dealing with bow-in or angled targets, it's gonna make you pull some hair out probably. But besides those situations, it's pretty decent in my mind. And do keep in mind, this is a Tier 9 premium ship that you can get for, well, if you buy the lower starter bundle, the 5500 doubloon 1 for $5,500, you get a Tier 9 premium ship and all those goodies that I showed you beforehand. If you grind your way through the event, you can have it for as little as 4 of the 1500. So yeah, actually you are better off buying the 5500 doubloon bundle, because you buy 4, it'd be I think a little bit more than the 5500 doubloon starter bundle. Or you can buy the premium battle pass, then one more Dockyard phase on top of that. But either way, short of just dumping your wallet into the event, if you just grind it out and one way or another get those last 4 stages, it's well worth the time in the grind, in my opinion. And I've looked at the missions; they're not really that hard at all. They've been pretty good about doing that for these last last dockyards since the Puerto Rico event. The missions really haven't been that hard. So it's a good boat in my mind. Nothing amazing, but far from terrible in my opinion. So guys, that's my 2 cents on the Daisen. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you have a wonderful Thursday, wonderful rest of your week, and hope to catch you guys in the next one.